Hello, and welcome to Songs for the Struggling Artist, the blogcast. This is episode 226. So, since I last talked to you, we got a new president. Hot damn. Yeah, we're pretty happy here, at least most of us. Phew. There was some dancing in the street. Yes, there was. I've heard around the world. So, whee. Yeah. So it was a long week though, and my back is like, why did you look at Twitter so much last week? Why did you have to scroll all day? I did not actually scroll all day, but I did. Yeah, I just spent a lot of time like, I'm not looking at Twitter, and then I would be looking at Twitter, and then The Guardian, and then Facebook, and what's happening, and is there results yet? Is there now? How about now? Which was a little hard on my spine. Anyway, I am glad to be talking to you from not the apocalypse, which I was worried about. But it's fine so far. I'm not relaxing yet. Who knows what kind of craziness these people will get up to. But for the moment, it's looking good. So today's blogcast is once again about masks. I wrote a mask post back in apparently April. I thought it was May, but it was April. And people are still looking at it. So I thought, I should update that because it's very different 6 months into wearing a mask than, a couple of days, or maybe it was weeks at that point, but I think it was days. It was probably days. Anyway, this ended up being quite a saga. So if you want to know some more stuff about masks, I am here to provide it for you. It is called More Tips on Masks from a Mask Theater Person. Initially, I was just going to add a little note to my first tips on masks from a mask theater person, a little update, as it were. I thought it was going to be a sentence or two. But I got started, and before I knew it, I'd written over 1,000 words. So I guess I had a few things to say on the subject after all these months of mask wearing. I wrote my initial tips for masks a few months ago when mask wearing was just kicking in for us in New York. According to my stats, people are still reading it, and so it needs a little update. Wearing a mask every single day for 6 months is a very different experience than throwing one on for the first time. A lot has changed since I wrote that first post, and I've got to make some amendments and adjustments as well. The first thing that is really very present and was absolutely not when I wrote the initial piece is the intensity of the anti-mask movement. When I wrote it, mask holes were the people taking up too much space and bumping into the rest of us. Now, the real mask holes are the ones who refuse to put their masks on. I don't have a lot to say to those folks. Just wear a mask. Don't be a mask hole. It would seem that most people seem to be adapting pretty well to wearing these things. They don't seem to be overly entitled and unconstrained by social bounds the way the early adopters were. I will note, though, that I notice there is still a visibility issue with masks. Depending on the mask, you might have discovered that your peripheral vision is impacted. I don't have the science on this, but I do know that we normally see our noses, but are not at all conscious of them. Now you're seeing this mask instead, and it is distracting for the space-making parts of our brains. You're more likely to bump into stuff or just have a different sense of the space around you. This happens in theater mask work as well, and if you can imagine it as a benefit, as we can in working in masks in the theater, maybe it will start to feel a little less limiting. For example, some of my favorite masks to work with are naive masks, also known as larval or basal. Their eye holes tend to be very small, and the mask covers the entire face. So in order to work in it, you have to adapt to a very limited range of visibility. This, in fact, is where the comedy comes in. My mask teacher, John Wright, will usually introduce these masks by having everyone put their hands in circles over their eyes like they're putting on hand binoculars. Try it. It's fun. Then he puts everyone in increasingly challenging situations while only being able to see through these small tunnels of their hands. Trying to get everyone into a line when no one can really see is almost always funny. Just because of the limitations, everyone begins to use more and more of the body. If you want to see down the line, you have to lean all the way out and turn. You cannot just peek out of your periphery. You have no peripheral vision. It is comedy gold. Our pandemic masks do not make comedy gold, but they do create a limitation. I'm still trying to work out the performative benefits of that limitation, aside from protecting ourselves and the people around us from droplets, of course. But I'm sure there is one. And since there are such a lot of us in these things, if we all search for it, maybe we'll find something interesting. Perhaps we will all become highly expressive in the eyes. Maybe we will increase our acuity in sensing things with the body rather than the peripheral vision. But if you find yourself a little clumsier in mask, maybe just recognize that that is likely the property of the mask and not that you are losing your grace. Another thing I will note is that when I wrote that first post, it was pretty much the height of the epidemic in New York. For us, then, there was never a moment outside the apartment where it made sense to remove a mask. In less dense areas, I have discovered, there is a lot more on and off that tends to happen. You go for a walk in a small town, and you can go without your mask for blocks, and then need to whip it on as a pedestrian approaches. My put your mask on and keep it on advice is useless for you in those circumstances. So, in this on-again, off-again world, you'll want to only touch the elastic. Take it on and off at the ears, not the front. That's for safety and keeping your mask as free from the bad stuff as possible. But it is also true for aesthetics in mask, that you don't want to be seen touching the face of the mask. I don't have a solution for the fogging glasses problem, really. In the theater, I usually encourage glasses wearers to switch to contact lens for performance, or go without. That is a lot harder in the real world. I can mostly only parrot what I have seen others say about the glasses problem, a lot of which seems to involve purchasing either fashion tape, bendable mask wires, or defogging goop. I keep trying to just place the glasses over the mask, but the glasses often slip or the mask does. The fog seems to entirely depend on the mask, the glasses, and the weather. I have been experimenting, though, and I've discovered that if I put my front teeth over my lower lip like a cartoon rabbit and say things that begin with F, it does a pretty good job of clearing my glasses. I made up a phrase, finicky feral finches fend for feed, that I found works pretty well. But somewhat more satisfying is telling corrupt and immoral politicians to go fuck themselves. I was originally enjoying telling Fitch McConnell to go fuck himself, but then I realized how much more effective it was to begin with a classic, old-timey Shakespearean curse of phi. The I has better glasses clearing qualities than the U. So, while I walk down the streets watching businesses get boarded up due to the Senate's abysmal COVID relief response, I can just curse away. Fie, Fitch McConnell. Fie, Finsey Fam. Lately, I've added "Fie, famey, foamy ferret." Listen, no one needs to know what kind of witchy business you get up to behind your mask. I've fubbled, foiled, and fubbled back there quite a bit. My fillet of a fenny snake has in the faldron foiled and faked. Anyway, vocal exercises aside, the main tool an actor uses in mask work is actually available to anyone, and that is imagination. The main skill involved in performing in mask is imagining that the mask on your face is your face, that the mouth of the mask is your mouth, that the eyes are your eyes. One way to deal with the alienating effect of having to wear something on your face all the time is to imagine that the thing is not a foreign object, but an expressive part of your own self. You can imagine scenarios for this if it will help. You could be an alien species with half a fabric face. You could be a warrior that has grown a protective layer of cloth to prevent you from telling secrets. You could be a cloth doll in the midst of a transformation. You can be someone new every day. I'm not going to say this won't be challenging. It is actually a lot easier to imagine that a silly forehead with a comedy nose is your face than it is to invent a useful fiction for your new cloth mouth. But it will keep you occupied as you negotiate Mask World. And it looks like we're going to be living in Mask World quite a bit longer. So having a project that'll last a year might not be a terrible idea. I will update this post as new developments occur. I sure as hell hope we can stop wearing these things every day soon. I hate them as much as anyone. But we'll suck it up and do it because it helps slow the virus down more than just about any other thing we can do. Wear a mask, save a life, and imagine you're a weird cloth monster or something. More masks, so many things, so many thoughts about masks. I mean, I guess it's like, you spend most of your theatrical career thinking about masks, and then suddenly you live in a world where you have to wear a mask every day. It's kind of hard not to think about it a lot. As you'll notice, my next blog post that I just put out is also about masks. It's different, though. I mean, I'm still thinking about it, but from a different perspective. So if you're like super into this mask content, there is more coming to the podcast next week and currently on the blog. So mask time. I will eventually stop talking about it, and here's what I really hope, we'll stop having to wear them because we'll be cured and everything will be great. So, yeah, and I am still walking around saying F things. It's very useful to be able to go to the phi, but I also sometimes don't even say anything because if you just send the air with the teeth over the lip, it's the same effect, honestly. But sometimes you need words. Sometimes you just need to tell someone to go fuck themselves, or phi. Phi really is good. Sometimes I just go phi. Yeah, and it does actually do the job. And also, if you tip your head back a little bit, it also helps because essentially you're trying to get the air to go down instead of go up to your glasses. I'm sure this would also work with sunglasses if you need. I also wonder, I noticed that it's really so much worse when it's cold out. Like the last couple of days, I haven't really needed it because it's been 75 degrees in New York City in November. But when it's cold, then it's just like you need something because, yeah, it's just fog city. Fog. The lady at the fruit store was like, my friend told me I needed to get windshield wipers. Can you imagine? Anyway. Yeah, so look for more masks next week. This week for your song, what's funny is because I did a mask post before, I'd already done a bunch of research on possible mask songs, and I was considering last time a song with the same song title as the Fleetwood Mac song that I ended up doing. But this one is a Michael Jackson song, and it is called Behind the Mask. It's not as kind of perfect for the idea. This is a song that I did not know before I began looking for mask songs. But it's been interesting to learn about it, actually, because the song was originally on the Thriller album. They recorded it, I think, or at least had gotten pretty far with it, and then had some trouble because it's based on a song by, I'm going to say, a Japanese band called Yellow Magic Orchestra. And so Michael Jackson sort of built on the ideas of that song and wrote his own lyrics, added a bunch of stuff. So it was supposed to be a collaboration sort of between the two artists. And then they'd reached an agreement for how they were going to handle the rights. And then the agents of Yellow Magic Orchestra were like, no, even though the band was into it. So it got held up for a really long time because of all of that. And this song didn't come out until after Michael Jackson's death. It came out on an album in 2010. And I just find that all very interesting. It partly because, like, there was another song on Thriller that we didn't hear? What? So this song is that song. And then also there are two kind of interesting videos for this song, again, made after Michael Jackson's death. One is one of the first kind of crowdsourced videos. It's just fans from around the world, singing to, performing to, lip syncing to, dancing to, etc., to the song. Now it looks like really like, yeah, whatever. But I think at the time it was fairly like, wow! And now it's like, one of these. But it is very sweet because everybody clearly, loves the song, loves Michael Jackson, are paying homage, etc. And then there's another video, which I saw first, which has kind of cool actual masks. So if you are a mask person and you want to see some kind of wild, they're kind of art masks, I would say. That I don't know if you could get like really good performance out of them aside from what happens in the video, but there's some really interesting like fringy ones that are like made out of fringe and some reflective stuff and some fun shapes. So if you feel like watching some Michael Jackson videos, Behind the Mask gives you two interesting worlds to step into. So I'll play that for you in just a moment. Is it a little complicated to sing a Michael Jackson song now? Yes, it is. I feel like it's fine because he's gone and the music is still interesting. So that's how I reconciled that situation. So thank you for listening to the blogcast. If you like it, tell someone. Like, review, subscribe on all the apps. And if you want to support it with some money, amazing. Patreon.com/Emily R. Davis is the hotspot to do that. There's also PayPal and Ko-fi. All of that is well appreciated. And I believe that is all. Oh, the Dragoning is, we're still one episode away from finishing. We got held up a little bit. Everybody's just kind of having a time right now, to be honest. And there's been some deaths in families, and this year, it's a hard year to make things. So it will be out hopefully this week. But if you're waiting anxiously for that, thank you. That's very nice. And I'm sorry. And it will be out soon. So if you haven't listened to The Dragoning yet, check it out on any and all podcast apps. Or if you can't find it on a podcast app, please tell me, because I will try and get it there. So, yeah. It should be everywhere, but if it isn't, I would like to know. Okay, so without much further ado, here is Behind the Mask by Michael Jackson. Like a two-edged sword, it cuts you and it stabs me. All along I knew you were a phony girl. Sit behind your mask and you control your world. You sit around and I watch your face. Try to find the truth, but that's your hiding place. You say you love me, but it's hard to see. 'Cause when he's in your arms, you're throwing rocks at me. Who do you love? Is it me? With you? I don't know. Who do you love? I don't want you. If you can't answer, you know me. There is nothing in your eyes, but that's the way you cry, girl. All is grand, all is bright. I walk around, I'm suffering in my doom. When I come to you, you're sitting in your room. Yeah, you sit around in the strangest place. So take off the mask so I can see your face. Who do you love? Is it me? With you? I don't know. Who do you love? I don't want you. If you can't answer, I know you. Heaven must be wary. You got me scared, girl. Every year yours are good. You got me scared, girl. Heaven must be wary. You know where you've been. Every year, na na na. Is it me? I don't know. Who do you love? Behind this mask I ask. I walk around, I'm suffering in my doom. When I come to you, you're sitting in your room. You sit around in the strangest place. So take off the mask so I can see your face. Who do you love? Is it me? With you? I don't know. Who do you love? Is it me? I don't want you. If you can't answer, I don't know. I don't want to talk about